up and the back end went down and the guy swam in. Then we went to the beach master. There's a guy on the beach that he controls the beach.
You were talking Iwo Jima. This is Joe Cariaco. Cariaco.
No.
Say it.
Cosipo.
Cosipo. Joe Cosipo. And you were Iwo Jima 1944, 45. 45, February 19. He invaded the day one at 11 a.m. in Iwo Jima. Tell us about that, Joe.
What do you want me to tell you?
Just start about when the first day one of Iwo Jima. Tell us about day one.
It was February 19th, 1945. We went in, I went into the beach about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, but the main body of troops went in at 9 o'clock. That was H hour. It was 9 o'clock. We came in about an hour, 2 hours later, bringing in supplies. We brought in supplies 4 days in a row. And one day, we were bringing the supplies in, and I can put it on, but you can't have it.
No.
What?
You need to put it on.
Yeah,
You
Mark,
just
I'm
put it
gonna
on.
use this.
You want me to put it on?
Say your name and your birth date and where you were born there.
My name is Joseph Cosipo. I was born June 30th, 1926 in Huntington, Long Island, New York.
And tell me who your mom and dad were when they were born, when they died.
Oh, I don't know when they were born. My mother died very young. She died she was only 34 years old. She had high blood pressure. My father, I don't know when he died, but my father was born in Sicily, Italy. One of 4 brothers. 3 brothers came over to the United States. The other brother stayed in Sicily.
What was your dad's job?
My dad had a barber shop. He had a 5-chair barber shop and a 4-booth beauty parlor in one town in Huntington, Long Island. My sisters, now I had 3 sisters, and all 3 of them were beauticians working for my father.
Do you have any brothers?
No, I have no brothers.
Okay. Do your father have any brothers?
No. Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah.
He was one of 3. He was one of 4 brothers, and 3 of them came over to here. Came over to Long Island. Actually, in truth, they came to Brooklyn, and they were living in Brooklyn. And then when my father got married, they couldn't afford to go anywhere, so they just went out on Long Island as a honeymoon. And my father liked Huntington, so after they came back, he opened up a barber shop in Huntington, Long Island.
What do these other 2 brothers do for a living?
Well, the one brother was a barber, and he had a barber shop in Huntington too. And the other brother was in the mafia. Actually and truly, Al, my uncle, Al, his other brother, was in the mafia, and he got knifed in the mafia on the New York waterfront. He was in a fight with some other people, and he got knifed, and eventually he died from it. But he used to come from Brooklyn. That's where he lived. He used to come out to my father's barber shop every once in a while to visit. And I was only a kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old. I used to say to him, "Uncle Al, can I see your gun?" He used to carry a gun in an inside pocket. I always used to say, "Can I see your gun?" He'd show it to me. It's funny.
Where'd you go to school? And tell us about your grade school and high school.
I went to school in Huntington, Long Island, and I was in my last year of high school, and I joined the Marines. My mother got all mad, and what she did was she told me that I shouldn't have joined, but I didn't need her permission. See, I was 17 years old. At that time, you didn't need your parents' permission. So I joined, and she blew her top, and she told me, she says, "Joey, I want you," she used to call me Joey. She's telling me, "I want you to go down to Florida and see my father." Her father was in Florida. He was in Ybor City in Miami, Florida, Ybor City. And I went down there and I seen him and stayed with him for about 3-4 days, and then I went back home, and then I went in the Marines.
Did her father talk you out of going to the Marines?
My father didn't, but my mother was so mad. She was on spit to be tied. She was mad that I joined because I didn't need her permission, you know.
What was that visit with your uncle like down in Miami?
My mother's father?
Yes.
Oh, it was just a visit. I just stayed there with him.
So that was your granddad?
No, I didn't stay with him. Like I stayed in a motel, but I visited with him for 3 days, and then I went back home.
What did you learn from him?
What?
What did you learn from him?
Not much. He taught me how to count in Italian. Uno, due, tre, quattro, cinque, sei, sette, otto, nove, 10. That's 10. That's the only thing he taught me. But he was a very nice old man. He had a little barber shop too. He was a barber.
Tell us where you signed up in, did you sign up in Huntington or did you go to Brooklyn? Where did you sign up and
I
tell us
had
how
to sign up in Brooklyn. I went to Brooklyn to sign up.
Was it very busy at the sign-up place?
What?
Was it very busy there?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember that. Yeah, it was busy. There was other guys there joining up. One guy joined up and came down to Paris Island with us, and he was an airline pilot. He was an airline pilot. And I said to him, what are you doing with us? We're not pilots. He says, yeah, they're going to transfer me to the Air Force Department of the Marine Corps.
So when you left home, how did you get down to Paris Island? Did you fly?
By train.
Or by train? Tell us about the train trip.
Oh man, that was a terrible train. At that time, all the trains was coal. They all burned coal. And if you opened the window, the goddamn coal things would fly in your face.
Did you get a lot of meals on the train?
No, it was only about a 4-hour run, 5-hour run.
Oh, I see.
When we went from after Paris Island, I think it was 12 weeks. I'm not positive, but I think it was 12 weeks. And then we went from Paris Island, we went to Camp Lejeune. And in Camp Lejeune, we did all maneuvers out in the sticks. And out in the woods, they had copperheads, snakes. They're about that long, about 6-8 inches long. They were copperheads, but they were dangerous. They wouldn't kill you, but they'd make you awfully sick. And we didn't have any ammunition. The only thing they gave us was blanks. But if you took a blank and you put the barrel right up at the head of the snake and you shot him, you'd kill him because it's only a blank, but it would kill him. And then after we left Camp Lejeune, we were in Camp Lejeune for about not very long, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. We were in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And then from there, we took a troop train and went to California to Camp Pendleton. And the troop train, all they had now, these were old trains, you probably never saw them, but they had 2 seats on each side of the train in the train booth. 2 seats. And that's all you had was that seat. You had nothing else. Or they had a little tiny bathroom with a toilet and a little tiny basin. And that's all you had. You didn't have anything else. That's the way you washed. And don't forget, we were on that train for about, I think we were on that train for a good 2-3 weeks. Because what they did was, when the train was on the road, if another train had to come by, we had to get off the track so the other train could go by. And that's why it took us so long. But I will say that, could somebody give me a glass of water?
Yeah.
Now, when we were going from Camp Lejeune to the West Coast, we were going to get on a ship. But in going, as I say, with the ship, the train had to stop every time we turned around. But when we stopped at the station, all the people from the towns, oh man, they brought you sandwiches, donuts, coffee, anything you wanted. Every time we stopped, we got good food, which was very good, you know. Then when we got to Camp Lejeune, Camp Pendleton, we stayed in Camp Pendleton only for about 8-9 days. And then we went on a troop ship in San Diego, on a troop ship, and we stayed on the troop ship. We got on that troop ship and we stayed on that troop ship for 50 days and 50 nights without seeing land. We stopped one time in Saipan to get supplies, but we'd have 50 days on the ship. Boy, that was something.
What year was that? 44, probably.
What,
What, 1944? About
June 30th, that was, the Iwo Jima was June.
that was the 19th of February of 45. So you were on the ship.
That was it.
Yeah,
That
but
was
you were
it.
on the ship probably from December till.
Well, that's right, but I don't know how. I know we were on board ship for 50 days.
Yeah.
And when we got to that's when we landed on Iwo Jima, right after that. We didn't land any other place. We went from San Diego right to Iwo Jima, and we landed on Iwo Jima. But I don't know how many days it was, but I think it was about 50 days.
Did you get seasick?
Yeah. You know, one guy told me a trick, not getting seasick. I got seasick maybe once or twice. But he says, always eat, because if you don't eat, that's when you're gonna throw up, you know, on a board ship. And boy, I don't know how bad the storm really was, but man, we would go up like that, and we were going from San Diego to Iwo Jima. We were in a convoy of 6 ships. I think 4 of them was combat ships, and the other ones were troop ships. But we nearly collided with another ship in a storm. It was, I don't know how bad the storm was, but we nearly collided. They just about got away.
Did you ever watch them get new gas? How'd they get the gas and the food and supplies?
I don't know how the slightest idea what they did. I know that I used to play down in the cafeteria. I used to play pinochle every single night, and I had KP for a while, so I used to steal the pies, and I used to bring them out at night, and we used to cut the pies in the middle of the night playing. We used to play pinochle, and I used to cut the pies and give everybody a piece of pie.
Was your bunk in the lower part of the ship, and was there a couple guys above you and a couple guys below you, and did you have a lot of bathrooms?
I don't know when. I don't know where I was bunked, really. I know it was bunked in the ship, but I don't know where the heck I was.
Were you scared when you were going over there?
You bet your life I was scared. But I don't know, we didn't know where we were going. When we went over from San Diego to Iwo, we didn't know what was told. Nobody told us anything. They just told us stay on the ship. And then when we got to Iwo, naturally then the daytime we saw the island and everything. And at the time when we got there, the guy that was in charge of the operation was Admiral Nimitz. He was in charge, but he was over the Marine General Vandergrift. Now Vandergrift wanted them to bombard the island more. He wanted them to bombard it for another 2 weeks, but Nimitz said no, invade now. So that's what we did. We invaded. Now, one of the times that we were bringing in supplies, and I told you that the boat went underwater, and the guy had to swim in, the coxswain that was running the boat.
You're on a Higgins boat then, a Higgins boat,
Higgins boat, yeah. And so we didn't have a boat to get back to our ship. So we went to the beach master. There's a guy on the beach that he controls the beach. We went to him, we said, listen, we just lost our boat. He says, yeah, I saw it. He said, just stick around, I'll get you the ship. So eventually, I don't know, 2-3 hours later, he got us on another boat. I don't think it was the Higgins boat. It was a little bit bigger, and it was carrying wounded men to the hospital ship. So we went on the boat, and we went to the hospital ship, and we helped them put the stretchers up on the boat and everything. And the guy says to me, where were you hit? I said, I wasn't hit, I'm okay. And then we took from there, we were trying to find our troop ship. We couldn't find our troop ship. We learned, there must have been about 3,000 ships all around that island. But we couldn't find our ship. And we laid out in the bay all night long. We lay out in the bay, but you couldn't find the ship. And eventually we stayed out overnight. And in the morning, some way or other, the guy found the ship. But we were in that boat all night long.
When you found that ship, how'd you get to that ship? Just a little ship take you over?
No, we pulled up to the ship and they dropped a cargo net over the side. And you climb up a cargo net. Now, actually and truly, I've got a picture, I don't know where the heck it is, but I got a picture, tape, showing me, and they took pictures at the time that they were pulling the men down from the ship, going down to the boats to go to the island, and I was holding one of the cargo nets so the guy could walk down, and it was on television. My wife and I was sitting there, and we saw it, and I said, "Oh man!" Mary said to me, she said, "Mary, Joe, that's you." I saw it, so we contacted the station, and they sent us a copy. I still got it somewhere. I don't know where the heck it is.
So that,
Hey, speaking of papers, now listen, you can't take my discharge papers. I gave you a copy.
No, that's right, that's good.
Yeah, but you can't take the original copy with you.
I know.
Okay. What else?
now tell us about that net you'd walk down. So a taller ship would go to a lower ship and like a bridge walking down? Is that what you're talking about?
No!
You're climbing it.
Over the side, what they do when you get on a troop ship or come off a troop ship, you don't walk down any ladders or anything. We didn't anyway, I'm talking us. We came down a cargo net. You know what a cargo net is? A cargo net is a net that has spaces about maybe 8-10 inches wide, square. That's what it's made out of. It's made out of a rope or something. And they drop that over the side and it's hooked up on top and you climb up that rope. You climb up that cargo net. And that's the way we got on and that's the way you got off.
Now, how many uniforms did you have?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. What do you, all I had was my greens. And,
Did you clean them off a lot?
oh yeah, you had to wash them, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to wash them.
So tell us about February 19th, 1945 was the invasion of Iwo Jima.
Right.
Bad weather the first 2 or 3 days before. Can you tell us about the bad weather before? You were probably floating around a
Wait a
ship.
minute, who told you there was bad weather?
Not that day, but the days before. The day of it was a good weather.
I don't, the only thing I can tell you, as far as I know, the weather was good when we landed. That's the only thing I can tell you. Naturally, the days before, here's Iwo, we got up there the day before they landed. Before they made the first landing, it was the day that they pulled up there.
Now, when you invaded Iwo Jima, it was 8:59 in the morning, or 9 o'clock was the first invasion. You went in at 11 o'clock.
Right.
The Japanese shot some of the guys coming in early, but they let them fill up the beachheads,
Right.
and then they didn't unload until about 10 o'clock in the morning. And you went in at 11 o'clock in the morning. They unloaded, so
I went at about 10 o'clock.
10. That's when they unloaded their power. What
Yeah.
was that like when you saw that happen? Because you're lucky to be living.
The first guys that went to the beach, they had fire. You know, they had gunfire, but nothing to speak of. You know, it wasn't what they. But the next day, the second day, man, they unloaded. One guy said, if you stuck a match up above your head and you didn't do anything, you'd get it lit by gunfire.
So
I don't know. That's just a saying.
you're probably living, because the nighttime you'd go back to your ship, but the Japanese.
No, we went back to the ship the first 3 nights. The fourth night, we went up to the front lines.
And you stayed there for 34 days.
34 days and 34 nights it was on the front line. Now, Nimitz secured the island after 36 days. He secured the island. He said the island was secure. Everything was okay. But we stayed there 2 more days cleaning out caves and such. And then we went back to the ship. And actually we were on the island for 34 days with no shower, nothing, you know. So everybody was in the shower, taking a shower, because they hadn't showered in 34 days. And all of a sudden, over the loudspeaker comes the 34th, 4th Marine Division, 24th Marines prepare to disembark. And we all said, what the hell do you mean disembark? We just came off the island. But anyway, we had to get ready. But then after a while they said, no, forget it, because somebody else took care of it. What had happened after we left the island, now you've got to understand that they took that island because they wanted to have the P-51 fighter planes escort the B-29s that were bombing Japan. That's why they took Iwo, so that the P-51s was short range. They would take off from Iwo and they'd escort the B-29s into Japan, and then they'd come back and land at Iwo. But when they said that we should go back on the island was because some of the Japs came out of the caves. Now, they didn't have much ammunition. They had swords and they had some bayonets and such, but they killed about. One person looked it up on one of those iPads or something. They said they killed about I don't know 10, 12 pilots of the P-51s. They said they killed them. Now they wanted us to take care of that, but before they did that, the 3rd Marine Division, which was still on the island, because you see, the 5th landed on the left and the 4th landed on the right, and as they went up, they brought in the 3rd in the center, and that's where the 3rd was. And the 3rd stayed a couple of days longer. They stayed a little longer, and that's when they took over to stop those Japs from killing the P-51 pilots.
Let's go back to on your ship, and you were taking.
I'm just gonna get you some more.
Iwo, we had gone from San Diego. We spent about 50 days on the ship, and then we got to Iwo, and then we were going to go on to the island. But they didn't tell us anything. They didn't tell us a thing. All they told us was we're going to invade that island. That's all they told us.
Can you tell us about, on the way to that island, about your fear and about other people's fear and about people's spirituality during that time?
What's your name?
Mark.
Mark, let me tell you something, Mark. When we were in, they didn't tell you anything. All they told you was you're going into combat. That's all they told you. The lieutenant just came in and said, fellas, we're going to invade an island. That's all they told us. They didn't tell us what island. They didn't tell us how well fortified. They didn't tell us how long. They didn't tell us anything. You got to understand, Mark, when we invaded that island, they didn't tell us a thing. All they told us was we got to take your. Well, when we went in, we had to bring supplies in, and we didn't even take our rifle with us when we went in and bring the supplies in. We didn't carry nothing. I didn't have a pistol. I didn't have a rifle. I didn't have nothing. I landed on the island, took the supplies off the Higgins boat, and put it on a thing. And the one time the boat sank, I told you before that we had to go in the other boat to get to our ship, and we stayed out overnight before we could get to the other ship because the place was so crowded. You know, I'll tell you something. How this was told to me by a naval guy. That was a naval guy. It happened. He told me about this after we got back to the States. He said that when they were bombarding Iwo, they used to have 2 or 3 destroyers run around the island real close to the shores to draw the Japanese gunfire cannons out, and the Japanese would try to hit these destroyers. And when they did fire them, they had to come out of the cave because, you know, their guns were all in caves. They had to bring them out, and they'd fire, and they'd bring them back. And what they did was, when they brought them out to fire at the destroyers, the cruisers and the battleships would zero in on them, trying to knock the guns out. I never knew that until the guy told me about it.
Before you invaded, though, you had to have some fear. Tell me about your fear.
I'm sorry, Monk. I was scared, but what can I tell you about fear? I was afraid that I might get killed, but you gotta understand, I was an 18-year-old kid, and what did I know? I used to stay gung-ho, no, nothing can stop me, I can go anywhere, nobody kill me. That's the way I felt.
How
And
about-
most of the guys that were with me, they weren't afraid. They weren't afraid until they got on the island. And then when they saw the gunfire and stuff, then they started to get scared.
When you went back on that boat with some of those injured, what did you feel like when you came back on the boat with the injured people?
Mark, I don't know, Mark.
Yeah.
It's so long ago, Mark, I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that I helped them. I remember that I helped stretchers get up onto the boat, onto the hospital ship.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you something that they told me. Now, you gotta understand, Mark, I was an 18-year-old kid. And you know, an 18-year-old kid is nothing can stop him. You know that? And when I first got hit, I got hit in the thigh from a buzz bomb. And it wasn't bad. Well, I was bleeding. And what happened was, just when we got to go up to the front line, the night we went up to the front line, I was only about maybe 30, 40 feet up the line. And there was another guy with them named Riley. I'll tell you something about him. We were going up together, and it was at night. Now, the only time you can see, it was so dark, the only time you can see is when they threw flares up. Because the big ships shot a lot of flares up. And when the flares went up, now everybody knew when the flare was going to light up, because the flare went up and it went boom. And it opened up, and then you can hear the shell from the ship that fired it. You know? But that's the only time you can see it. And we weren't really, you got to understand, Mark, we were young kids. We were gung-ho. You know, nothing could stop us until we got up in there. And what happened was, we were going up, Riley and I was on the outside towards the beach, and he was on the inside, and we were walking up in the middle of the night now. It's so dark you can't see your hand in front of you. All of a sudden, the bomb hit on the other side of Riley. On the other side of Riley, the bomb hit. And that's what knocked me over, you know. And Riley said to me, and later on, after the war was over, and I think I qualified this, he said to me, Joe, throw me a knife, I want to cut my arm off. That's what he said to me. And when I told the guys back home that they all said to me, oh, you're full of baloney, he never said anything like that. Then later on, we met Riley in New York City. He was still in the service that, you know, and we went and had a drink and thing. And I said to him, Riley, what did you say to me when you got hit? He said, Joe, he says, I was in shock. He says, I said to you, give me a knife so I can cut my arm off. He said to me, Joe, he said, I was in shock. And what I did was, at the time, I took my knife out and I threw it to him, and it was in the middle of the night now. I threw it to him, and the next minute I got the knife back, was right by me, and I put it in my thing, and they took Riley back on the ship. I never saw him again until I saw him in New York City and Times Square, you know. And naturally, I got hit too. I got hit in the thigh, but mine wasn't bad. It was like somebody took a rasp and put it over your skin, took all the skin off, and I was bleeding, and it didn't hurt me to speak of, and I took the blood was all over my hand, and the corpsman said to me, what do you got wrong? I said, I think I got something wrong with my hip. I said, it's got blood here. He said, let me see. And he pushes me over, and he rips my pants. He said, oh yeah, you got scratched. He put some, what the heck did they call it now? Some kind of stuff they had, white stuff, they put it on wounds.
Sulfur.
They put it on?
Sulfur.
Sulfur, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they put sulfur on them. And then they took and they put a wrap thing around, and he said to me, now go back on the hospital ship. I said, no, I don't want to go back on the hospital ship. No, like a young kid. No, I don't want to go back. He said, you got to go back. I said, no, I want to go back. But I didn't go back. I went up to the front lines. And when I got up to the front lines, you meet the sergeant up there where he's going to put you in a platoon, you know. He says to me, he says, why is your pants all ripped? I said, oh, I got a scratch on there. He says, scratch? He said, you got to go back to, I said, I don't want to go back to the hospital ship. So I stayed up to the front line. The next day, I was put in a squad, and I was made a rifleman, but I was made an assistant BAR man. Now, assistant BAR man carried a vest, and the vest had 2 pockets in the front and 2 pockets in the back to carry magazines for the BAR, right? So I was carrying that. 2 days later, the BAR man got hit, and I had to take over the BAR. I didn't even know how to load it. I had to be taught how to load it. And then I carried the BAR over to the island, and I shot at everything that wasn't moving.
Did you see more action at night or in the daytime? And what about the caves over there?
Oh, we never went in the caves. No way. A couple guys did go in the caves, and one guy that went in the cave was one of the people that took the first pictures of the raising of the flag, and he never came out. That was well known.
Did you ever see they had, I think, 8 Sherman tanks over there shooting fire in the caves. Did you ever see that?
Well, yeah, they did that, yeah. And you know, a lot of times when they found the Japs, they didn't have a mark on them. They didn't have a mark on them. They weren't scratched. They weren't nothing. They were just dead. The reason that they were dead was the flamethrower would draw all the oxygen out, and they died of lack of oxygen. That's the way they died.
Can you tell us a little bit how you slept at night and how fearful you were at night and how you dealt with the Japanese possibly coming and getting you at night?
Well, at night, when you dug a foxhole, your foxhole had to be within range of the other guy's foxhole. You got to be able to reach his hand, and he sticks his hand out, and that's how far the distance of the foxholes are. And the foxhole was very easy to dig, beautiful digging because it was a volcano. It was all ash, and there was nothing to dig. And they gave me a Marine that I thought he was 7 foot tall. He was so tall. And now in the foxhole, they dig the foxhole so one Marine sits down and sits like this, you know, and he sits there and sleeps, and the other guy stands between them. It's like, and he watches at night, you know, because at night they don't try to do anything, you know. So anyway, and they used to make us, before we went to sleep, we had to put out a pad. Now this pad, I don't remember, it was about 2 foot wide and about 6, 7 foot long, and it was thick rubber. And we would put that, and it was blaze orange. And they put it out in the front of the foxholes so that in the morning, our planes could go and strafe on the other side so that they would strafe away from us. And a couple of times in the morning, we would wake up when the lights come on, and we would find a couple of those tapes behind us. How the hell those Japs ever got those tapes, rolled them up, and brought them on the other side. Not many. Now don't think I say they took them home. We saw about maybe 5, 6 of them were taken behind us. But the guys in the planes, they knew that was happening. They would strafe in the front of us, so we didn't get hit.
But that means the Japanese had to get right over your foxhole at night and drag some of those back without you catching them. I mean, they had to be very quiet to do that.
Yeah, you bet your life. How the hell they ever did it, I'll never know. Because the guy standing up, he was only this distance apart. They had to go between them. How the hell they did it, I don't know. I don't know how they did it. Now, they must have found a way to do it, I don't know. But it didn't do any good anyway, because we men strafed on the other side.
When you took that island over, you never just saw Mount Suribachi, did you? You were too far away. You didn't see it.
No, I could see Mount Suribachi.
How far was it? About a mile away from you?
Yeah, about a mile away. But we could see the thing. We couldn't see the flag too good when they raised it. The first flag that they raised was raised by about 15 Marines. But you know, what always galled me, they said the flag was too small for people to see. So they got another flag from a cruiser or something, a bigger flag, and they brought it on the island and they raised it. And that's the picture that similar to the monument in Washington. That's the picture of it. And the guys that raised the first flag, but technically, that they were the heroes as far as I'm concerned. The other guy that raised the second flag I think was 6 Marines, 5 or 6 Marines, I can't remember now. They raised it, and that's the picture that they took. And that was a motion picture slide, that picture of that flag that they raised. It was a motion picture slide. And, but when they dedicated the monument in Washington, D.C. here, when they made the documentary and they dedicated it, do you know that they never invited any of the fellas that raised the first flag? I thought that was wrong, because they were really the heroes, because they raised the first flag.
Let's take a quick break.
We'll talk about the museum, because Joel's asked about the museum. We have a wartime museum in Evansville. It's 30,000 square feet, and we're trying to bring back to life so other generations remember what Evansville did in World War II and what people like you did in World War II. We're trying to memorialize the people that participated in World War II, but also all the people in the factories that built all the things that helped supply things to you. So that's what we're doing. And we've been working on it for 12 years, and it's Evansville had 80,000 workers working for the war effort in World War II. 80,000 workers, the highest per capita in the world.
Yeah.
And so we made 10% of the bullets. We made 4 billion bullets there. 40 billion bullets were made in World War II. We made 10%. We made LSTs there.
Who made the others?
The other bullets were made all different places in the United States. We made 95% of the 45 bullets. Yeah. And we made the 30 carbine bullets. You probably use that in your rifle. But those are the only bullets we made there, were the 45s and the carbine bullets. The other thing we made were LSTs. We made 1,100 LSTs in World War II. We made 167 Evansville. We have the only
LSTs?
We have the only one left from World War II that's functioning in Evansville, out of 1,100. And
wow.
there were a lot of them when you were in the Battle of Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
A lot of LSTs.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of them around.
Then we also make P-47s there, the P-47s.
Well, you can probably.
Why don't we go thinking about when you're on the front line with the BAR, with your other rifle. Tell us about a few experiences in the foxholes and how you would even see the enemy to shoot. What would you shoot at? Was there a light, or you'd see a shot, and could you be very accurate?
Well, to tell you the truth, Mark, I didn't see anything at night. Most of the times when I saw it was during the day. The most prominent one that I saw was 2 Japs. There was, got to understand that this island was a pear shape, and they leveled it off. And when they leveled it off, they had ravines that went down to the water. You follow me? These ravines, they would throw junk in it and everything. And the Japs used to come out of the caves. Now they had these caves that what the heck was his name now? What the heck was the commander of the Japanese? I can't think of his name. But anyway, he told the men not to go out of the cave. Shoot from in the caves. And we were told that if you saw any opening in the ground, whether it was the size of a nickel or bigger, throw a grenade in there. Every once in a while I'd see something that looked like a hole in there. I'd push the grenade in, pull the pin and run, and blow up and there was nothing there. But anyway, this guy that, as I told you, they gave me as a BAR assistant, he was supposed to, you see, the ammunition was all M1 ammunition. For the M1, the BAR, the water-cooled machine gun, and the air-cooled machine gun. It's all the same bullet. So they had boxes of these boxes. They were about that wide, maybe 12 inches long, and about 10, 15 inches high. And the guys, they had people that didn't stay on the front line. all they did was bring the stuff up. And when we moved the front line further up, they would bring these boxes up closer so we could get it. And one time I needed ammunition, you know. So I left my spot where I was in the front line, and I walked back to get some ammunition. And this guy, this lieutenant comes up to me now. He didn't have any rank on him. He just walked up to me, he says, "What are you doing, fella?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" And he said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, get the hell out of here." I was a lieutenant, I was surprised. But he didn't have any rank on him, you know. Anyway, you'd go back and you'd go into these boxes, and they'd have bandoliers. Now, a bandolier carries 8
8 rounds, 8 boxes of rounds,
no, eight. I don't know what the heck I'm trying to say now.
clips.
Clips, that's it. They had 8 clips in there, and each clip had 8 rounds in it. And that was set up so that it would go into an M1, and you would put it into the M1 and push back, and you let it go fly. And when it goes fly, it takes the top bullet, puts it in. And if you got your finger caught in there, that was called an M1 thumb. I never got it done, but some of the guys got their finger caught in there, and man, that hurts. Because that bullet, that ramp comes forward, man, it hurts. Anyway, I never got caught. I never got. But anyway, I was a BAO man, and I was firing, and when I fired, I used a lot of ammunition. And this assistant was supposed to get the ammunition, put it in magazines, and fill my I had 4 pockets with 4 magazines. I was supposed to take them when it's empty. I was supposed to give it to the other guy. He's supposed to give me another one. He never filled up the ammunition. All the time. I told the sergeant one time, I said, "Sergeant, you know, he don't fill up my magazines, and I'm using them. I'm have to fill them myself." So he went and told him, bawled him out for it, you know. And
Did he do better after that or not?
yeah, he filled them pretty good. But when you go to sleep, as I told you before, one guy sits down and the other guy stands between his legs and watches for the night. And you're supposed to wait an hour, let the guy sleep for an hour, and then wake him up, and he stands for an hour and you sleep. And then one day, I was tired as anything. Sergeant says to me, "Cosipo, why are you tired?" I said, "I don't know, I'm so tired." He says, "You know, Cosipo," he says, "what you do is next time you go to sleep with him," he says, "make sure that he gives you your hour of sleep." So what I did was I went into bed and I went, and then he woke me up, "Your time's up." I said, "You son of a," I said, "you dirty son of a, you stay up there, you're gonna stay up there all night long, you try to cheat me out of my time." But anyway, that's the way it went.
So how much yardage did you advance? About 100 yards every day or more than that?
Sometimes you wouldn't advance at all, according to what they are. But you see, it wasn't a line that Japs were here and they moved back like that. That's not the way it worked. The way it worked is you had a line, and you're supposed to find out if there's any Japs in the front there, because the Japs wouldn't have a foxhole that you could fight out. The Japs were in caves, and if you saw a cave, you couldn't see the cave openings. The cave openings were always concealed. One time, we were advancing slow, and all of a sudden, there was a mound of dirt, big mound of dirt, and the 2 Japs came out of the mound of dirt. I don't even know how the heck they got out of it, because all I saw was dirt. But then behind there was an opening, and they ran out. 2 of them ran out, and I shot at the first one, but I didn't hit either one of them. But when I got there, they were both dead. The guys on the other side killed them, and one guy had a sword, a samurai sword. But the samurai sword, right where the blade went into the scabbard, you understand that? The cover, it's called the scabbard. the blade went into the scalp. Right there where it went in, there was a bullet hole, and it closed the thing so that you couldn't pull the blade out or push it in. You couldn't. And I cut his belt with my knife, and I took the sword and I carried it on my back. And I carried that goddamn thing for about 2 weeks. And every time I turned around, I had to get down. It was always in my way. So I threw it away. After we got back on board ship, one of the guys that I know, he said to me, "Hey, Cosipo," he said, "come on, I want to show you something." I said, "What is it?" We went into another compartment, and here this Marine was saying how he killed this Jap and how he took this sword off him. And the guy said to me, he said, "That's your sword, Joe Cosipo." I looked at it. He said, "Damn it, yeah, you're right." And the other guy, I didn't care. You know, he took it off the arm. And the other guy said to him, he said to the guy, he says, "You're a damn liar." He says, "Joe Cosipo carried that sword for 2 weeks and then threw it away, and that's where you picked it up." And eventually the guy did admit it, that it was on the ground, he found it. He wanted to give it to me, but I felt that he took it off the island, and I as far as I'm concerned, it was his, it wasn't mine, because I threw it away.
When you looked down that cave after
Oh, no.
You didn't look down that cave?
Never went down the cave at Tom.
Did you look down there and drop a hand grenade?
I threw hand grenades down there, yeah, but I never went down the cave. I wouldn't go down 2 foot down the cave. One guy went down the cave, never came out.
When you used those hand grenades, it was about 8 seconds before they went off. The Germans had a different hand grenade. Did the Japanese send any hand grenades at you, and how long was the delay on there?
I can tell you something, some funny things that happened with the grenades. I'll tell you some funny things. Our grenade had an arm, a lever that goes down like this. This is the grenade, and the lever goes down like this, and over here has a cotter pin that holds it. And this idea of pulling the cotter pin with your teeth, that's a lot of baloney. You try to do that, you pull your teeth out. You had to pull it with your hand. And what you do is, when you get the grenades, the cotter pin is bent over them really tight. And you had to straighten that out so that you could pull it with your hand. Now you can't pull it grabbing it with your teeth, because you pull your teeth out. But anyway, the one time I never practiced throwing a grenade in the United States. I never practiced it. They never did it. The first grenade I threw, I held the lever arm, because the lever arm is what ignites it. Your lever goes up, and this ignites, and then you have roughly, they said, 4 to 6 seconds to throw it. And what I did was, I pulled the pin out, and I threw the grenade with the arm and everything. I threw it. The first grenade I ever threw in my life was in combat. I threw it at these 2 Japs that came out of the cave. But when I got there, the other guys killed them. That's the one I took the sword away.
Did any Japanese throw a grenade back at you?
No, I never had that happen. No, I never.
When it exploded, did you put your head down and things so it wouldn't hurt you?
Well, they would fire, but you couldn't really tell where they were firing from. You'd hear bullets whistling past you.
Yeah.
You know, unless you got hit. You know, you could hear them, but you never. I never got hit. I got correction. I got hit 3 times. One time I got hit in the thigh, I told you about. They wanted to send me back. I wouldn't go back. The second time I got hit in the shoulder. You can see it if you look here. It's all rough. I got hit in the shoulder, and boy, that burned like anything. And they bandaged up for me. They wanted me to go back. But you know, I was a 18-year-old gung-ho kid. You know what gung-ho means? You know what gung-ho means?
No.
Gung-ho means nobody can stop me. Nobody can beat me. I'm gung-ho. I can win anything. And that's what these Marines said. I was gung-ho. And then they burned me here, and the guy put some sulfur on it, and they told me I got to go back. I said no. And anyway, the third time if you look here, the little mark here, I got a piece of shrapnel went right in there. Man, that burned like anything. Man, I eventually got it out. One time, when we were advancing, We knew there was Japs there because of the gunfire. And we were advancing very, very slow, sometimes on our knees. And I was behind a big mound of dirt. It must have been about maybe 5 foot high and about 20 foot wide. Big mound of dirt. And I was hiding behind it. And all of a sudden, one of their mortars landed on the other side of the mound of dirt and lifted the mound of dirt and me and flipped me over and covered me up with all the dirt. And the guys dug me out. I didn't get hurt, you know. I just got dirty.
Did that scare you?
Yeah, don't get the idea that you're not scared. I was scared. I was scared. But, you know, as I said before, I was gung-ho. Nothing could stop me, you know. If I was an elderly man like I am now, I'd be scared. But, you know, yeah, I was scared. Don't ever get the idea that in combat you're not scared, because you are scared. I wouldn't say you would poop in your pants, but you were scared, you know.
Did you think the Army or the Navy helped you? The Army wasn't there much, but you had a lot of Navy corpsmen.
No, there was Army observers there. They came. And you know what was on the island that a lot of people don't realize? You remember you understand the, what the heck do they call them there? Those boats that would also ride on the ground too. What the heck did they call them?
Duck boats?
Yeah, like a duck boat. It would go on the island and it could go in the water too. They were driven by black people, black men. And you know, what the heck was the name of them now? Ducks. They were called ducks. And the duck pilot was way up on top and he was driving, you know, and it was way up in the air. And they used to get picked off like nothing because they were way up in the air. The Japs used to pick them off, you know. And they were black guys. Quite a few of them got killed, you know. They couldn't do anything. To drive the duck, they had to keep their head up to see. So a lot of them got killed.
And inside the duck, they had maybe 10 troops or something like that?
Yeah, they carried troops, or most of the times, they carried supplies in. See, with the duck, they could load up at the ship and then go in and go up into the Iwo, and they didn't empty up on the beach like we did. We emptied on the beach. He would there go up and maybe go half a mile inland and give guys different ammunition or grenades or stuff. He'd carry all that stuff.
Did you see any CBs make the roads there and come in with bulldozers and help? You didn't see that?
No, yeah. Nobody made, no
roads.
CBs were there.
Yeah.
There was no CBs there. Now, they said that the Japanese had 3 airfields on the island. They only had 1 airfield that could be used, and when I was there, it was only 1 airfield that could be used. The other airfields, the second airfield was just as far as I'm concerned, it's just a cleared out space where they were going to make the other airfield. And then the third airfield wasn't even done, nothing.
Did you see us repair the airfield after we conquered the island? Did you see them repair that airfield?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The first airfield, some B-29s actually landed on it before we finished taking the island, the B-29s. And that was the reason that they took the island, because they wanted to have escorts to the B-29s, and some of the B-29s that got hit, they would land on the Iwo, and they'd repair them, and then they'd let them fly back to Saipan.
What do you think is important for the next generation of kids that are younger now about the love of a country?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know.
Do you think they understand the value of freedom?
No, I don't think they understand the value of freedom, because they don't know anything else. What do they know? They've always been free.
Do you appreciate your freedom after going through that, and how do you feel about freedom?
Oh, I'm very, very, very popular, and I think that freedom is the wonderful thing, and a lot of people didn't get their freedom, you know.
Yeah. What do you think about World War II? What do you think about the atom bomb?
Well, you know, that's a That's a hard question to answer, because we had to drop the bomb. Don't get the idea we didn't have to. We had to drop the bomb. But I didn't like the idea of dropping the bomb, killing too many people. You know that the first, well, when they first went and bombed Japan from Saipan, when they first started, they were dropping the bombs from 30,000 feet, because that was what the B-29 was designed to do, to drop bombs 30,000 feet. But when the guys dropped the bomb, they didn't know anything about the Japanese trade winds. Now, the Japanese trade winds were up 30,000 feet. Now, if they were going with the trade winds, the winds were going this way, if they dropped the bombs would go over the target, because the trade winds would blow them over the target. If they were going against the target, they would drop before the target. You follow me? Yeah. They never, very seldom hit the target, very little. And Curtis LeMay, General, I think it was General MacArthur, got a hold of General LeMay, Curtis LeMay, and he brought him out there. And he said, look, he says, I want you to get results. So Curtis LeMay brought the B-29s down to 9,000 feet. Now this ship, this B-29, was designed to bomb at 30,000 feet. It was one of the first airplanes that were completely oxygen.
Pressurized, yes.
Pressurized, right. And they were, and he told them to bomb at 9,000 feet. But they said that's utterly ridiculous. That ship's made to bomb 30,000 feet. He says, I don't care what it is. He says, you just bomb at 9,000 feet. And all of the guys were scared that they'd be inundated by fighters. But they dropped them at 6,000 feet, and it worked good. They bombed the right thing. But then they didn't get hit that bad with fighters. I don't know why.
What's your thoughts about the Japanese emperor, and what's your thoughts about Hitler during World War II?
What was the last?
What's your thoughts about Hitler and the Japanese emperor during World War II?
Well, Hitler, I have no opinion about Hitler. But the Japanese, when we were bombing from Saipan and Tinian B-29s, sometimes LeMay would send out 350 ships, 350 B-29s to bomb. And man, one time he sent out, I don't know how many ships he sent out, but they devastated. They killed, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of people. And then when he dropped the bomb, they actually killed less people than that bomb, that run that they made.
Yeah, incendiary bombs and other bombs killed a lot of Japanese, even more than the atom bombs.
Right.
What do you think about the incendiary bombs that burnt the cities up, or the other bombings?
Yeah. LeMay found out that they could get this incendiary. I don't know who made it. Some companies made it. And he dropped so many incendiary bombs, he ran out of bombs. He didn't have any more bombs to drop. But that incendiary, that was terrible. That would burn everything out. The people were getting killed by fire like mad.
Anything you got to say to the younger population about how important it is for our freedom, and how important to be in the military to defend our freedom?
Mark, I don't really know how to explain that to you.
Okay.
I just feel that freedom should be protected. But nowadays it's different. Of course, they're having problems now in Croatia or whatever it is that they're fighting. I don't like it. I hate it. But I'm 97, be 97 in June. I don't know.
Tell us about your uniform, Joe. Did you keep your uniform in shape when you were over there? Did you keep it clean?
No, we didn't have a uniform over there. We only had, greens,
yeah.
which were rags, as far as I'm concerned. They're nothing like this. This sort of stuff was never over there.
So you didn't wear a hat like that?
No.
Cover like that?
I bought this hat when I was I bought this hat when I was outside of the Marine Corps. Well, I was out of the Marine Corps by then.
You got a bunch of ribbons on you. You got a Purple Heart there and a bunch of ribbons. Can you tell us
I
about
got-
what those mean?
I got 2 Purple Hearts and a bunch of other ribbons. But those ribbons were given to me by people from when I came home, from Huntington, from Suffolk County, and from New York State, from things like that, gave me all those ribbons. They don't mean anything.
Could those other Marines understand you with your accent?
I haven't got an accent. You got an accent.
No, the other Marines, could they understand you?
Yes, they understood me very clearly.
Would they say you were a New Yorker?
Yeah, New Yorker. When I first came down from New York down to Powers Island, the first guy I met his name was Joseph Nathan Smith Raines. And he says to me, he says, "You damn Yankees." And when we went into Paris Island, first went in, I didn't know anything. I was when I went in, I was 17. My first night in Paris Island was my 18th birthday. But I took the tray, and I went along, and they had cornbread. Well, I never saw cornbread in my whole life, and it looked like cake. So they took about 3 or 4 pieces, and Buck Raines says, "Man, you like that cornbread, don't you, Yankee?" The big sign over there, anything you take, you eat. You don't throw anything away.
And so you got fed pretty well when you were on the trade troops, but when you were at Iwo Jima, did you get fed pretty well over there when you were in the hole?
All you got was
Sea rations?
C rations and K rations. K rations was the most popular one. That was only K ration was a little box. It had a little tiny can. I swear the can was the size of a $half and about a half-inch thick. And they gave you a can opener to open it up, and it had a little tiny bit of meat in there. And they gave you a little bit of bread, and also they gave you 2 cigarettes. Every K ration had 2 cigarettes. And then after a while, we got some C rations. C rations were a little bit better, a little bit bigger. But basically, it was basically the same thing as a K ration, only larger, and gave you more food. And what they did was, on the island when you were fighting, I only remember it twice in the whole time that I was, 34 days that I was there. That's the only time I do it. They brought up a bucket. The bucket was about so high, about 4 foot high. It was about a foot in diameter, and all it had in it was hot water, and they would throw coffee grinds in the hot water and stir it around, and that was called coffee. And what you do, that 2 guys would bring it up behind the line, and they would send 2 or 3 guys from the front lines into the back, and he would take his canteen, and he'd take a scoop of it, and that was his coffee. I only had that twice. It was nothing, just darkened water, that's all.
Did you get Lucky Strikes or Camel cigarettes, and did a lot of those guys smoke? And you could see that, the Japanese could see you smoking, so you didn't want to smoke at night.
Well,
did you smoke in the day?
What?
Did you smoke in the day or night?
I don't remember smoking on the island.
What'd you do with your cigarettes then?
I don't know. I'm here now. I don't remember what I did then.
A lot of guys got addicted to cigarettes, and when you got back on the ship, everybody was smoking, weren't they?
Right.
Yeah.
When I went in Paris Island, I didn't smoke. I hated to smoke. But if you didn't smoke, you weren't a man. So I forced myself to smoke. And I smoked from when I was 18 to when I was like 30. I was 30 years old. And that's when the big cancer scare started. And I threw the cigarettes out the window and never smoked again. That's the only way you can do it, is cold turkey.
Do you smoke Winston, Lucky Strike, or Camel?
I smoked Camels and Lucky Strikes.
Filter or no filter?
No filters.
Yeah.
No, I never smoked a filter cigarette.
I need to take a quick break and change your battery.
Joe, can you say your first and last name, please?
Joseph Cosipo.
Your birth date?
June 30th, 1926.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us, you were on a ship from the United States to Iwo Jima. Tell us about that ride. Was that 50 days straight?
Yeah, it was 50 days straight. Well, they were 50 days straight in the sense that we were on a ship for 50 days, but they stopped at Saipan to refuel or something. I don't know. They stopped there for a little while. Nobody got off, not that I know of. Nobody got off, but they stopped there. I guess to get taken supplies and stuff like that. And then we went on to Iwo.
Tell us about February 17th, 18th, and 19th before you invaded Iwo, and then when you invaded Iwo. Tell us about the sounds, the bombings of Iwo, and then your ship going in.
Well, we on board ship, we were far enough away from Iwo the day before the invasion. We were far enough away that you couldn't hear anything to speak of, you know. And then that February 19th, then they brought us right in towards the island, and the first wave got off the ship and went into the shore. The idea that you're looking for the idea that there was bombardment before. There was, but we really didn't hear it that much, you know. You don't when you're on a big ship like that.
Now, when you took those little, not ships, but boats in, it was either an LTV or a Higgins boat.
Higgins boat.
Higgins, well, tell us about that. Just tell us what you did with the Higgins boat, because you did that for 4 days.
The Higgins boat is about maybe 30 feet long, and it's got and the front of the Higgins boat is a ramp that goes down forward. And when it goes down forward, it lands on the ground, and the boat is still on the water. And then the people that have the supplies in the boat, we take the supplies and we bring it on shore. Maybe, in our case, we were going in about 30 feet, 40 feet, and we would leave the stuff there, and we would go, and then somebody else would move it where they wanted, you know.
How many trips did you make a day, and was there anything eventful?
Only one a day.
One a day.
One ship, hey, you had to go from the ship. Now, you weren't going 20 feet, you know. You were going like half a mile from the ship to the shore. You were about a half a mile away from the shore. And you didn't go very fast. Plus, the idea when you leave the troop ship loaded with the supplies to be dropped off, you don't go straight into the beach. You go to what is known as a beach control ship. It's a small, it's a small boat, maybe twice the size of our boat, and they would sit out there, and you'd pull up to them on both. I don't know how many people, but you pull up there, and he'd give you instructions where to land. In other words, you didn't go from the troop ship right into the island. You went to this control boat, and he would tell you where to land, and you would go in there and land. And one time, we went in, 4 times, you know, and the 4th time we went up to the front line. But the second or third time, when we pulled up to this boat to get instructions to go into the island, the guy in the control boat said to us, "Scatter." And we naturally, everybody both boats took off. And sure enough, a Japanese shell landed practically where we were. They had zeroed in on us, and this guy knew about it. I don't know how he knew about it. Must have had field glasses. I mean, I don't know. But
the Navajos were there. There were 8 Navajos from the Indian tribes, and
you mean the code talkers?
Yes. Can you talk? Can you tell us?
I never met a code talker, and I never saw one.
Yes.
So can't tell you anything about them.
But you never saw them. There were about 6 of them. They did 800 different codes during that invasion. They said they helped. They might have been code talkers that helped save your life then.
Right, yeah. Oh, it's very possible, yeah. You never know. It's very possible, sure.
What did you have on your boats that you brought in? Now, what type of supplies?
Well, the most important supply that you brought in was ammunition. And ammunition was 30 caliber ammunition. It's in bandoliers. Now, a bandolier is a piece of cloth maybe 12, 14 inches wide, and it had this cloth had little pockets in it, and each one, it was 8 of them, I think it was 8 in there, and in each pocket was a clip of 30 caliber ammunition, and this clip carried 8 rounds of ammunition, and it was set up to be used by an M1 person, using an M1. So if you had, you didn't have an M1, you carried a BAR. Somebody else carried an M1. In the BAR, you had to take the clip and you pull the bullets apart. When you pull one bullet out and then the rest fall out of the clip. And you take that and you put it into your magazine for your BAR. You follow me? And then you use that. Now on the BAR, I didn't learn how to use it until I got in the front line, because we didn't get that much training. And then the BAR has a magazine. The magazine carried, I'm sure it's 20 rounds. It might be more, but I think it was 20 rounds. It's been so long.
Hold on just a second, Joe, I'm so sorry.
The BAR, the Browning automatic rifle, carried roughly 30 rounds or 20 rounds magazines, and you'd put the magazine into the bottom, and then you pull I can't think of the name. Bolt. You bring the bolt back once and let it go forward, and that puts a bullet into the chamber, and then from there, when you pull the trigger, there's 2 ways you can do it. There's a little lever on it, and you press the lever down or up, I can't remember what it was. And if you pushed it down, it would fire all the rounds. It would go, and if you push it up, it would fire 1 round. So you could change it either way, you know? And then after that, that was the only ammunition that we got, I and my people got involved with, because the BAR ammunition and the M1 ammunition is the same ammunition. It's just it's in a different carriage. You follow me? It comes in a clip, and this clip goes into these bandoliers, and it carries 8 of them. And when you take when you get the ammunition in a box, the box is about maybe, I don't know, 15, 16, 20 inches long, and about 10 inches wide and about a foot deep, and it's wood. And you would go and you'd take the top off, and then you take these bandoliers. And these bandoliers, they have, I think it's 8 clips in these bandoliers, and it's a piece of cloth that carries pockets. It has pockets in where these clips go, and you put them in there. The clips are full of ammunition. So what you do is, when you open up the box, you just grab stuff, and they're all connected together by another piece of cloth. And you pick out maybe 8, 10 clips, 8, 10 bandoliers, and you take that and you go and do what you have to do. Now the BAR man has a vest that carries 4 magazines. 2 in the front and 2 in the back. It's a little vest. It just flips over. And your BAR assistant, which is another Marine, he's supposed to carry the same vest with 4 clips, so that you'd have ammunition to use.
We made those 50 caliber or 30 caliber bullets in Evansville, Indiana. We made 500 million in World War II.
Yeah,
that's where you're.
They made an awful lot. We used an awful lot. Like the sergeant said to me one time, he says, "Cosipo, will you keep using ammunition like that?" Because I used to fire at everything. Anything that moved, I would shoot at. And he says, "You will run out of ammunition." I said, "No, you won't." We had more ammunition than you could shake a stick at. We had all ammunition. We had hand grenades, and there was one other grenade that not people know too much about, was a phosphorus grenade. I don't know how, I never used one, but I heard about them. A phosphorus grenade, if it goes off near you and you got a couple of those specks on you, it actually burns into your hand because it's phosphorus. You follow me? Mm-hmm. Okay? And now, go ahead.
Okay, so that's what you did. You unloaded with your Higgins boat. once a day you would unload ammunition and whatever supplies the Marines needed.
Right.
You did that for 4 days from February 19th to the 23rd about.
Right, and then and then the fourth day, I came in, and when we left the ship, they told us, take all your ammunition, take all your guns and everything, because you're gonna stay ashore. So we took everything, we took our clothes, and, you know, we didn't have that much clothes, because all we carried was a backpack. It's not actually a pack, it's a cloth that's rolled up. It's called a pack, and it goes on your back, and it ties the straps around. And we took that, and we took everything else that we needed, and then we went ashore. And after we unloaded our boat, which was evening, it was a night, and the night was very, very, very dark. I guess that's why they planned it like that, when it was very dark. The only time it was light was when the ships out in the water would fire flares. And that's a funny thing, but if you ever seen a flare go up, the first thing you'd see with a flare is you'd see a pop, just like a pop, and the flare would come down and it was on a little parachute, and it would come down and be light, and then come down to the water, and then you'd hear the gunfire from the ship. It would go pop, and this, and it go down, and then 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, about maybe 35, 40 seconds, you'd hear the gunfire from the ship. So actually and truly, you see the flare before you hear a gunshot boom.
Now, you took the Higgins boat in, you took bullets in the .30 carbine. You took other supplies. Did you bring any food in? Did you bring food or anything else?
We brought in food, and we brought in other stuff. But I don't even know what it was. It was in boxes, you know.
Did you load the Higgins boat, or did somebody else load the Higgins boat?
No, somebody else loads it. They load it by, what they load it by, they have a ramp on the ship. It's a bar, and they load it up, and then they push it out over the side of the boat, over the side of the ship, and the rope would come down, and all those supplies, and then you'd put it on your Higgins boat. You'd separate it so you can take it in.
Tell us about that boat that sunk that you were on.
What happened was, we came in. I think it was the second day or the third day. We came in, and it was a little bit of tide. It was a little bit rough. So we pulled up to the island, and he dropped the ramp, but the boat kept slipping back. So as it slipped back, we couldn't take the material off. So he kept gunning the engine to get up and onto the beach so we could take the stuff off. We took 9/10 of the stuff off, and he gunned it so much that the back end of the boat went underwater, and he had to swim in. But naturally, we lost the boat because the shore on Iwo is very deep. You go out maybe 10, 15 feet, and it would go down like 80, 90 feet, you know? Because that was a volcano, that island.
So then, after that, you were in the front line on February 23rd, 2023. There were two major battles on that island when they took over Mount Suribachi. Did you ever see the flag?
Wait a minute. The 5th Marine went to the left.
To the flag, towards Mount Suribachi.
Yeah, and they fought up there. Now, when you say battles, it's a continuous battle.
Okay.
It's not you fight and then stop and rest and then fight again. Not on the front line.
Yeah.
The front line normally is fighting all the time. Only time you get arrested if somebody comes in and replaces you and you go back. We had some people. Now, it wasn't in my company or anything. I was told that there was some fellas that, you know, they couldn't take it. They started to cry. One of them, I didn't see him do it, and all I was done was told that he did it. He came ashore, and there was so much gunfire, they started to cry, and they took him back on the ship, you know. But, you know, in combat, a lot of people, I don't know how to word it, I don't know how to explain it, but there's gunfire all the time. You know, it's not that one time you have gunfire, 2 minutes later you don't. On Iwo, it's so close, it's such a small place, you got gunfire all the time. And the truth of the matter is, one guy said that if you stand up, you're dead, you know? We used to crawl. Go ahead.
Now, there was a plateau there, I think it was number 312, where the Japanese had a bunch of tunnels there.
Oh, I don't know.
Don't remember about that one. How about,
I don't know anything about that.
you ever heard of the meat grinder or the gorge?
Oh, we were in the meat grinder. That was just a phrase. That was a small town, a very small town, probably just about as big as this room. It was a town, but General Kobayashi, who was the leader of the Japanese, he took all the civilians before we landed. He took all the civilians back to Japan. I don't know when he took them back, but there was no civilians on Iwo at the time of the battle.
What did you think about General Kobayashi? He was a tremendous general for the Japanese.
Yes, he was a very smart man. He was a very smart man, very smart. But I don't know anything about him. I wasn't that bright, you know.
And can you tell us, you did get one Japanese soldier you captured? Can you tell us about that?
What happened was, after we were on, I was up on the front line for maybe, I don't know, 5, 10 days, 15 days. They said that they were going to try to have a line of guns, you know, guys with guns on this, all the way down to the water. And then they were going to try to push the Japanese back into these guns. But the Japanese didn't move, you know. They didn't retreat. The Japanese did not retreat. They died where they were taken over. But anyway, they had this set up like that where they were trying back. And this one spot here, we were all set up with 30 calibers and 50 calibers and everything. And we were waiting for them to come. And out, then we looked out, way out, and the guy must have been maybe, I would say, a good 200 yards out. We saw this little flag, little white flag, waving, you know. And then he'd get up and he'd look, and then he'd get down and he'd wave again, and he'd get up and look. And naturally, we didn't speak Japanese, so we couldn't tell him to come in. So we got an interpreter. They sent back to the, I don't know where, and an interpreter come up, the guy that could speak Japanese. And he hollered out to the Jap, come on in. I didn't hear what he said, but he told him to come in. And the Jap would come in maybe 15, 20 yards, and then he'd wave the flag again, he'd wave the flag. And eventually when he came in, he was maybe, it just so happened that I was where he came in. He would go right into me. And the interpreter told him, he says, stand out about 15 feet away from us. And this Jap, all he had on, this Jap, was a diaper. All he had was a diaper on him and a pair of slippers. He had nothing else on. You know, underpants, nothing. And when he came in, the interpreter told him, he says, take the diaper off and turn around and spread your cheeks. And that's what the Jap did, because they were afraid that they would carry grenades in their backside, you know, hold it with their backside or tape it on their backside or something, and then they pull the pin and blow up. That's what they thought they'd do. But this guy was honest. This Jap was honest. He just wanted to live. He didn't want to die. So what he did, he turned around, he took the diaper off, he spread his cheek, and the interpreter said, all right, come on in. And they took him away, and that was the end of it. I never saw him after that.
Out of the 21,000 Japanese that died, there was only 200 that were captured. You had one of the 200 that were captured.
Right.
Hardly any were captured. You hardly saw any other people captured. Is that correct?
We didn't capture anybody else, just that guy.
Yeah, because they fought to the death.
Right, they fought to death, yeah.
You never saw anybody doing bonsai towards you or
Oh no, we didn't have any bonsais. On Iwo, there was only a very, from what I understand, I wasn't involved in it, I didn't see it. All I know is when we landed, the 5th Division landed on the left and the 4th Division landed on the right, and they went in, but they spread out as they went in. And they brought in the 3rd Division about 4 days later, and they put them in the middle. And they went in and took one of the airfields. And what I understand, I was told this, I didn't see it, they told us that the 3rd Division had a small banzai, like 15, 20 Japs ran into them. But I didn't even see it, I didn't know anything But that's what they used to do when they first, like on Roy Namur, where we first landed. There they had a small banzai, and on Guadalcanal they had a couple of big banzais, and that's where what the sergeant that he was what the heck was his name? Basilone. John Basilone was a sergeant of a Marine machine gun group, and the Japs actually overran them. But this Basilone picked up this water-cooled machine gun and used it held it in his hand and fired. Now that machine gun must have weighed, probably I don't know, but it weighed close to 100 pounds. And he was firing it from the hip, and he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. And then they sent him back to the United States to do, post-troop duty. But he said no, he wants to go back to the whatchamacallit. And he went back, and when he went back, he joined the 5th Marine Division, and he landed with the 5th Marine Division on Iwo, and he had a machine gun platoon that he controlled, and they ran right across the island in 90 minutes. And when he was saying, I don't know who he told this to, but he told somebody, that when he got on the other side, half of his men weren't there, went on the other side of the island. So he went back to the where they landed. He went back there to get the men, and the men were frozen. They were so scared they were frozen, and they wouldn't move. But he got a hold of them and made them move, and they all went back, and he got shot there and died. That's where he died.
He was a Medal of Honor.
Right.
There were 82 Medal of Honors given in World War II to Marines, and 28% were given on the island of Iwo Jima. There was another one, Herschel Williams. He just died last year in 2022. He was the last of any Medal of Honor winners from World War II. You never did see Herschel Williams, did you?
No.
But
the only man I knew about that had the Congressional Medal of Honor was Basilone, but I never saw Basilone. I never met him. Yeah. I did meet an Army guy and was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, but he was in the Army and he won it. It's the wrong word to use. You don't win medals, but anyway, he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor in Europe for something, I don't know. But we met at a dinner one time, and he gave me a little medal. In fact, I think I still got it.
Want a water, Joe?
No, that's all right, go ahead.
Joe, there are a bunch of movies that are made about Iwo Jima. Have you seen any of those movies? Or?
No, I didn't. The one movie I heard about, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I think I saw part of it on the television. They showed part of it on television, I think, one time. And I saw part of it. It was called The Flags of Our Fathers. Yeah. And there's a debate that fella that wrote that book, his father really wasn't one of the 6 men that raised the flag. That's what they say, I don't know.
And there was one big battle, it was a Bloody Gorge. You were right in the middle of Bloody Gorge. We lost 6,800 Marines and 19,000 wounded. That battle lasted from March 11th through March 23rd. You were right in the middle of that.
We were, but I didn't know anything about it. I was just there fighting. Some people are under the impression that everything goes into code. There's no problems. But
a lot of the Marine battles, you would hit them with Navy artillery for an hour or two, and then all of a sudden the Marines would come in and attack.
Right.
And the Japanese got used to that, so General Erskine changed things. General Erskine, I think it was Erskine that changed everything where they didn't do any.
You mean the Japanese general?
No, General Erskine, the American general. He changed where all of a sudden you just attack them at night without having any bombardment, because the Japanese were getting alerted. Whenever they got bombarded with the bombs from the ships, they would all of a sudden know you were coming next. Yeah. And he changed that. Do you remember when you were in the battle, when all of a sudden you just go at them at night?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I realize.
Did you ever attack them at night, Joe? You don't remember?
We never attacked at night. Well, at night, we always stayed in our foxholes. We stayed in the foxholes and that was it. We didn't fight at night. When I say we didn't fight, I didn't fight. You know, the guys that were right with me, but there was some firing at night, you know. Japanese would try to infiltrate your lines. They would try to get on the other side of your lines. You know, that's the way the Japs were. They were very sneaky. Very, very sneaky. You know, sometimes the Japs, what they would do, they didn't do it to me, but they did it to a couple of my friends. They made out they were dead. And then when you walk by, then they would shoot you after you walk by them.
Did you ever have any problem with hot weather or disease or a lack of food? What did they feed you?
No.
Just the
We always
rations?
had plenty of food, but the food was K rations and C rations. The food wasn't that good, but we always had food to eat. We didn't die, and we always had water. And I told you the other day that they brought coffee up to the lines one time. What they did was they had this can. It was about maybe 3 feet high and about 12 inches in diameter. It was a big metal can with handles on it, and they would put hot water into it. Where they got the hot water, I don't know. And after they put the hot water in, they just poured coffee grinds in, coffee from the grounding. Drop it in, stir it around a little bit, let it settle a little bit, and then you'd come and you'd dip your canteen. You had a canteen on your belt. You'd stick that in there, and that's what coffee you had. And it was nothing, it was just coffee grinds,
Napalm was a pretty big deal over there, where a lot of battles in Iwo Jima were led by some tanks that shot fire out of them. That's napalm, and they used 5,000 to 10,000 gallons a day. Some of the battles were led by that. Did you ever see any napalm being used by General Lamar?
Not napalm. I saw the tanks using flamethrowers.
Did you see some of that? Did you ever see flamethrowers?
Yeah, I saw a tank spraying gasoline on a ridge,
Yeah.
And one time, with the tank, it was funny. You see, Iwo didn't have roads or anything to speak of, but they had places where you could drive, And one time we were following a tank, behind it. We, maybe 4, 5, 10 feet behind the tank, and the tank was going. Now a tank there ran very slow. When I say ran, you could walk faster than the tank would go. But anyway, this tank went along, and there was as I told you before, the island was originally look at the shape of a pear, and then it was leveled off, the thing, and there was ridges went down to the ocean, and the tank run along, and they came to this ridge where there was a ridge, and they looked down in there, and down in there was a pillbox. Now, why in God's name they would build a pillbox down in a ridge down to the water, I don't know, but they did. And this tank didn't do anything. It went, looked up, stopped, and we all looked at it. We all looked at the pillbox, and there was nobody in it. Correction, I didn't say we know. We looked at it, we couldn't see anything. So this tank started to go. As he got past the pillbox, the tank was past the pillbox. Now, a Jap came out of the back part of the pillbox, and he had these Japanese grenades. Now, Japanese grenades, you can pull a pin and just hold them, nothing happens. What you got to do is you got to tap them on your helmet, a metal helmet. You tap it, and then you got about 4 or 5 seconds, and they would throw them. So this Jap came out of this thing, and he had this row of grenades in his army, and he'd go like this, and he'd be throwing, and everybody was shooting at him. Nobody hit him. So he threw all these grenades, and then he ran back in the back part of the pillbox. So the tank, after he went back into the pillbox, which was a door on the other side of the pillbox, not close to us, on the other side, there was a door, and he went in there. So the tank pulled backed up, and I don't know what size caliber gun he had, but he fired at the door and he blew the door apart. And he figured he killed everybody. So he goes further on, and all of a sudden the Jap comes out again, he's got this thing, and everybody's shooting at him, nobody hits him. So they went forward again, and one guy got a satchel charge. You know what a satchel charge is? It's a charge of dynamite. It comes in a package like a backpack. It's about maybe 12, 15 inches wide and about a square, and then it's about maybe 6 inches deep. And on it, it's all explosive. I don't know if it's dynamite or what it is. But what you do with this thing, it has a little, like a syringe on it. Just like a syringe. And you would pull this syringe out, and when you pull it out, it's like setting it alarm. So you pull it out, and you maybe have 10, 15 seconds to throw it. And you take that and you throw it, and it would blow it up. So this one guy got this satchel charge, and he went on the other side above the door. And he took this and he took it and he threw it and he put it inside of the pillbox, because the door was blown apart by that tank. He took the stuff and he threw it in and went into the door, and everybody ran away. Man, you thought the whole island blew up. The whole place blew up. But I guess he did. I guess he died.
Did those hand grenades ever get the tank? Are they here at the back of the tank that the Japanese guy was throwing at the tank?
I never saw any.
The hand grenades never did stop the tank, did they?
No, a grenade couldn't stop it. Most of their guns couldn't stop it. They might damage it, and if they hit the tracks or something, they knock the tracks off or something like that. But they couldn't stop the tank. Now they had a couple small. The Japanese had a couple small tanks on it. But we never got involved in it.
Their tanks were very small.
Very small and pieces of tin, really. But the Japanese weren't interested in doing that kind of work. You know, they were only interested in killing man to man.
And the Japanese tanks would hold 1 or 2 men, and they were real thin. And they had a small gun on them.
I didn't even see one. I know there was some on the island, but I didn't even see, myself, I didn't even see one.
Okay.
And when you left Iwo, were you still this,
I was 18 years old when I left Iwo.
Right.
I hit the beach at 18 years old. I don't know what, you know.
Basically what I wanted to ask is, you know, you went in there as a kid. When you left that island, were you a kid anymore, or what'd you leave as?
That's a matter of opinion. That's a matter of opinion. Was I a kid or not? You know, the idea is age. Age really, as far as I'm concerned, didn't mean anything. Some men that was older, 20, 30, 40, you know, they was more scared than some of the kids that were 17 years old. You know, but age, I didn't think age meant that much. You know.
Would you say you went in there as a kid and left as a man?
That's a thought, you know, it's possible, you know. I don't know if I did or not. I admit that I was more experienced in what was going on. If we would have hit another island, I would have known more about what to do than I did when I hit Iwo. You follow me?
I do.
Were you worried about hitting Kyushu?
What?
Were you worried about having to be assigned to Kyushu, mainland Japan?
Kyushu, me.
Kyushu, thank you. Were you worried about having to invade there? Because that would have been your next assignment.
Well, the next assignment for the 4th Marine Division was going to be Tokyo. That's where they said that we were going to land. They were preparing us to land in Tokyo, near Tokyo. And if we would have landed near Tokyo, we'd have been completely annihilated. They had too many troops there. And on Kyushu, which is part of the island there, of Japan, they said originally, before we thought about invasion, that they only had 4 Japanese army divisions in Kyushu. And after they landed, they found out that they had something like 20 Japanese divisions there. So if we would have landed, we would have gotten hit there. Now, I think I told you yesterday that I have a friend that was an 8-year-old Japanese boy in Japan when we were going to invade. He was 8 years old, and he's actually here. I speak to him every once in a while. I call him up on the phone. His name is Hiro Suzuki.
Suzuki.
Hiro Suzuki. He was an 8-year-old boy then, and he told me that if we would have landed and some of the people didn't have rifles or didn't have pitchforks, they were going to take and make sharpened sticks, and they were going to come at us with sharpened sticks. Now, how can I shoot an 18-year-old boy because he's running at me with a stick? Now, just think about it. A child that young, 8 years old, coming at you, but he's trying to kill you with a stick. Would you shoot him? I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could shoot a pin. I probably would have tried to hit him in the foot or something to stop him, But, well, it never happened. And the people of Japan right now are very nice people, They're very good people.
Next thing I wanted to ask you is, what did the Marines do for you, and how did it shape who you are today sitting here?
I think it made me more understanding of what went on. Like I just said before, I wouldn't hurt a kid. I think that was brought out because I fought the Japanese, I don't think that I would hurt, trying to hurt other people because of that, I don't know, it's hard to say things distinctly about different things. Sometimes it's one way and sometimes it's another way,
What does Semper Fi mean to you, and does it stick with you now at age 97?
Semper Fi means always faithful. But in the Marine Corps, when you were a Marine, if you said Semper Fi, that means the hell with you, man, I got mine. and that's what it's always meant to me. The funny thing, when I first went into Parris Island, I went down from New York, I went down to Parris Island, which is in South Carolina, and I met outside in Beaufort, which is just outside of Camp
Bragg.
the
Lejeune.
Marine base.
Lejeune.
And before we went in, this guy, Buck Raines, his name was Joseph Nathan Smith Raines. I met him outside and started to talk to him, and I palled around with him all through except when we hit the beach. I palled around with him. And I was carrying a tray, they give you a tray to get food. And I was carrying this tray, and I have never eaten cornbread. I never ate cornbread. And I thought it was cake. And I took about 4 pieces, and Buck says, "Boy, you must really like that cornbread, huh?" I said, "Cornbread? I thought it was cake." He said, "No, that's cornbread. And you see that sign up there? It says everything you take, you gotta eat. You can't throw anything away." I had to eat all that cornbread. I was stuffed. But the food on Parris Island wasn't there. They treated us pretty good.
Joe, do you think you were more disciplined after you became a Marine?
Yeah.
If you look at the Spartans, the Spartan mentality of when you're more disciplined, you're more orderly, and your
Right.
mind works better. Can you tell us about that?
Well, the idea is that when you go in and you get taught to obey people that you don't know, you follow me? Because they outrank you. In other words, if you're a private and a private PFC, private first class, tells you to do something, in Parris Island, that's what they taught you to do. If he outranks you, you gotta obey what he says to do. That's the whole thing that they wanted you to learn in Paris Island. That and how to handle the M1. You know, they didn't teach anything else. They didn't even teach me how to handle a grenade. The first grenade I threw in combat. I didn't even know anything about it. They told me, when the grenade comes out of the package, out of the box, and you got it, that grenade has a lever arm that goes from the top of the grenade down to the side of the grenade. It's a lever arm. And down lower part has a pin that goes through it that holds that lever arm down. When you pull that lever arm, when you pull that pin out, the lever arm goes up. And when the lever arm goes up, it ignites the grenade, and then you got maybe 5 to 6 to 8 seconds to throw it, otherwise it blows up. And when they come in the package from the place where they make them, they take this cotter pin, they put it through there, and they bend. You know how a cotter pin works. You bend over 2 things, and they would bend it over real bad so that you couldn't pull it out. And what you had to do when you got your grenades, naturally we kept our grenades on our backs, on our shoulders, and we would take them off and pull the pin and throw it. Some people said they would pull, these big Marines would pull it out and put it in their mouth and pull it with their teeth. Baloney too. You pull one of those grenades out with your teeth and you pull your teeth out. That's so goddamn hard to pull. When you get the grenade, what you do is you straighten up the cotter pin straight, and then when you want to use it, if it's straight, you can pull that cotter pin out, let the handle fly, and throw it, you know?
Let's see. So, what was your proudest moment as a Marine?
My proudest moment? Huh? Oh, I would say when I got my proudest moment was when I got out of Paris Island. When you get out of Paris Island, they give you 2 pins. They got emblems, Marine emblems, 2 of them. They give you 2 of them, 1 for each side of your collar. And that's when I thought I was a big man, because I got my 2 pins. I thought it was something special.
And on the flip side of that, do you remember your scariest moment in those 32, 33 days that you were there in Iwo?
Well, I'll tell you the big truth. Whether you believe it or not, I was scared all the time. Very scared. Well, no, I don't think I was ever where I pooped in my pants or something like that. No, I was never that. I don't think I was ever that scared. But there was guys that were that scared. My best friend, Buck Rains, when we hit the beach, he wasn't with me. He was palled around with me all through training and everything. But when we hit the beach, he was in a different company. Now, I asked a couple of the guys after a while, you know, after we got on the beach and we were fighting for 4, 5, 10 days. And I asked him, I said, "Where's Buck?" You know, Joseph Nathan Smith Rain. He said, now this guy told me, whether he lied or not, I don't know, but he said Buck came ashore and started to cry, and they sent him back on the hospital. Why, I don't know. But you know, sometimes people get scared, and I tell you, some of the things, when you see somebody next to you get shot in the head and he jumps all around. There was an incident where I don't know how to, let's see how to explain it. There was a ridge. There was a ridge on one side of the thing, and the ridge went up a little bit. And normally the ridges are straight, but this ridge went up a little bit. So the sergeant said to me, he says, "Cosipo," he says, "go up and slide up on that ridge and see what you can see up there." So naturally, when I went up, I went so close to the ground, I was in the ground. You know, I slid way up on my tummy. And I slid way up there, and I got over there. I could see up over the top, but I couldn't see anything. There was nothing there. There was just water and dirt and such. So this sergeant, he hollered up to me, "You see anything, Cosipo?" I said, no, Sarge, I didn't see anything. Now don't forget, I was laying flat on the ground. I didn't move, I didn't get up or anything, I was laying flat on the ground. And I said, no, I can't see anything, there's nothing looking. He comes up right behind me. He walks up like he's in Times Square. He walks up and he puts one foot on my right side of my body. I was laying there. He put one foot on the right side of my body and the other foot on the other side of the body, and he leans on his arm there. He said, ooh, this is a good place. I'll put his machine gun up there. And he gets it right between the eyes or in the face. And he fell over on top of me. And man, I was so scared. I was telling you. He fell over on top of me and blood was going all over me. I was so scared of something. The guys, when they saw it happen, they pulled my feet and they slid me out from underneath them. I never saw him again because they took me away, you know, because I was hollering and screaming. I don't think I cried, but I don't know. But I was scared, I'll tell you.
When you got home after the war, what did your mother and dad say to you?
Well, my mother was very, very happy to see me. My father says, oh, you're back. He didn't think nothing of it. My mother was really upset because when I went, she was very mad that I signed up, you know. She was really mad at me because I signed up.
Were you happy to be home?
Yes, I was. I was very happy. In fact, before I left, I was discharged in Bainbridge, Maryland. And when I got my discharge papers, you go to a desk, and you sit down at the desk and the guy talks to you about different things. I don't know what. Then he says to me, he says, if you signed up for 2 more years, Joe, he said, I can give you 2 more, 1 stripe. I can give you another stripe, which will give you a corporal. And he said, I guarantee you, before the 2 years are up, you'll get another stripe. You'll get a sergeant stripe. I said, no, I don't want. I want to get out. So I got my papers and I got out.
Let's see. Was there a day that you can remember that you thought to yourself that you weren't going to get off that island, or was it every day?
You know, it was so busy that I don't think I ever thought about something like that. It was so busy, it was so fighting. You know, another thing that happened, what the heck is it? I just had it, I wanted to tell you about it. It was another incident that happened. You know, it was so long ago that, you know, you forget it. What is it? How many years it is? I had another thing I wanted to tell you about. God damn it, I forgot. I forget things because my mind isn't that sharp anymore. What the heck was it? I told you about the sergeant falling on top of me, getting shot through the head. And oh yeah, just before the time I took up there and the guy got shot, the sergeant got shot through the head. Just before that, somebody else on another ridge, we were moving up, and on that ridge, one guy was up on the top of a ridge, and it was maybe 10 feet away, 15 feet away, and he hollers down to this guy, little guy. His name was Roger. He joined at 15, I think, 15 years old. He says to Roger, he says, hey Roger, throw me up your gun, throw me up your M1, I want to use it for a second. So Roger takes the gun like a spear, and he throws it up, and it lands in the ground with the barrel into the ground. Got all full of sand and stuff. And the sergeant said, now what the hell do I do with it now? It's all full of dirt. I'll never forget that sergeant rolling up.
Let's see. Can you tell me who the heroes were there, or are?
The only hero that I know of that was Barcelona that died. And you know, heroes. You know, when people talk about heroes, they're thinking about some guy walking up and killing a guy right there and then and stuff like that. That doesn't happen, you know. I don't know. No, I don't know of any real hero that I knew of other than Barcelona, when he came across the island and tried to get those guys to come to the other side of the island, and he got shot and got killed. They have a picture of Barcelona in the Huntington Town Marine Center, Veteran Center in Huntington. They got a picture of him, of his back too.
I thought I heard you saying before we came here that this is a quote right from you, that the real heroes are still there.
Beg your pardon?
You said that the real heroes, they're still over there.
Oh, the figure of speech, and sometimes people would say heroes. I always say that the real heroes are still there. They're dead. They're the only real heroes. That's the way I feel. You know, there was so many. I don't exactly know how many men we lost on the island, but some guys told me that it was something like 6,500 men got killed on Iwo. I don't know how many, but you know, when they died there, they would be put in a body bag. A body bag is like a rubber bag that's about, you know, length of a person, and they would take and they'd put the body in the bag, and then they would put the bag in a hole in the ground, and they'd bury them. Now sometimes they bury 5, 6, 7 bodies in one hole. But you know, after the war, I don't know when it happened, but after the action and everything, basically the war was over, they went back to Iwo, and they dug all those soldiers, all those Marines up, dug them all up, brought all of them back to the United States, and they buried them in military cemeteries. That's what they told me. I figure they did, you know? Because a lot of the parents of the Marines that got killed, the parents were very upset because they feel that all they did was put them in a bag and put them on the ground. And they didn't like that. The parents didn't like that. So they dug them all up and brought them all back to the United States.
Mm-hmm. You have that, your other Purple Heart thing?
From Evansville, Indiana, we had a guy named Lenny Logo, and he was killed on that island, and his parents very upset. Anybody that lost a kid in World War II were very
Right.
upset. In
Very
Huntington,
upset, yeah.
in Huntington, you probably had some people that were lost in World War II. Do you remember talking to those parents in Huntington?
No, I didn't speak to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to back, but I didn't think that it was that bad. I said, I don't think it was. If I would have gone back to the hospital ship, got taken care of, and then said I wanted to go back to the island, then if I got hit again, I'd get another Purple Heart. And that happened to me 3 times. I got hit in the shoulder, I got hit in the thigh, and I got hit in the neck. If I would have went back each time, I would have got a Purple Heart each time. But I only was awarded 1 Purple Heart, this one here. And I wrote to them and told them about getting hit in the thigh, getting hit in the shoulder, getting hit in the... And so they sent me another Purple Heart, that one. They sent me that. But that Purple Heart is not registered. Only this Purple Heart is registered.
All right.
There's a lot of little idiosyncrasies. A lot of people don't realize the idiosyncrasies that came up.
One thing to do over in your entire life, what would it be, if anything?
One thing I would overdo,
One thing you would do over?
I would treat my wife better than I did. That's the most important thing. I would have treated my wife better. I didn't treat my wife good because I used to go deer hunting, I used to go golfing, I used to go play bowling, I used to do everything. My wife used to stay home all the time, except when we went to Florida. I didn't think that after a while, after I look at it, and Mary stayed home, I thought it was wrong with me. But you know, at the time I didn't think it was bad, but it was bad.
You still had a great relationship, though.
What?
You guys still had a great relationship beyond, I mean.
I can't hear you.
You had a great relationship, though. It wasn't like it was that bad, right?
Oh, no, Mary and I had a good relationship. Mary would never ask me to do anything. Occasionally, we would say, could we go here or we could go there? And I'd go, naturally go. But we used to go down, after I retired, I quit playing golf and I quit going to deer hunting, I quit bowling, and we used to, every January, February, March, we used to go down to Florida. And we used to rent a condo down there, and we used to stay down there. We had some friends that we knew down there, and we used to go out to dinner. And down in Florida, at that time, you could go out to dinner for $1. Used to call them dollar restaurants. You'd go in there, you could have pizza or something else. But we would go eat, we'd go with these people. One day, they would decide where to go. Another day, we would decide, and the other person, the other decide where we would go. And it was always a discount restaurant. We went to some restaurant where it was $1, and they give you all the fish you want. They give you fish. Now, there are other places, was a pizza. They used to give you a pizza about that big. And if you wanted another one, they give you another one. Just for $1, you know?
Nice.
It was very cheap at that time in where I was in Florida, you know.
So I wanted to give you a scenario. Imagine if you could go back in time right now at 97 years old and put yourself next to that gung-ho 18-year-old kid that's just stepping onto that beach for the first time. What would you tell him?
I'd tell him not to step on the beach, get the hell out of there. That's what I told him.
That's the only advice?
But he couldn't do that, you know.
He wouldn't do it, though.
No, he wouldn't do it. And you wouldn't be allowed to do it. You'd get a dishonorable discharge. You know, it's a funny thing. I joined, when we came back, I joined with a bunch of other Marines. We had what's called a Marine Corps League. And we used to raise money for charity. And one time we were on the island, on Long Island, what's called Jones Beach. A lot of people know Jones Beach. And in Jones Beach, they have a boardwalk, a big boardwalk, maybe 25 feet wide, and God knows how long. And we used to have a booth up there with all our paraphernalia and everything, and we used to wear our uniforms and everything to raise money for charity. And I can tell you the other one. One thing I'll tell you, the other thing I won't tell you. This one guy came up to me, you know, and he said, I have my uniform and everything. And he said to me, "You're a Marine?" Jesus Christ, I got all the uniforms. I said, "Yeah, why?" He says, "I was a Marine too." I said, "Oh, yeah, where were you?" He says, "I was dishonorably discharged." Now, why in God's name would a man say that he was dishonorably discharged from the Marine Corps? I think that's worse than dying. That's my opinion. But we used to go up there and raise money, and we used to give the money to charity, and sometimes we gave a bunch of money to a bunch of women that were making pillows for people in the service. They'd make the pillows, and they sent them to these people in the service.
Let's see, I have two more questions. First one, you're 97. What's the key to life? And any advice to stay happy and healthy? What's the key to life at 97?
What does it feel?
What is the key to life? Any advice to stay happy and healthy for anybody younger?
Eat right. Don't overeat. Don't get fat like me. But I'm overweight. I try like anything not to eat too much. Mostly desserts and stuff. Like the other day, I wouldn't eat too much cheese. The cheesecake.
Yeah.
Watch your health, because nobody else is going to watch health. Now, we have a fellow that comes in with us. He comes in to eat with us once in a while. He's in an electric wheelchair and he's laying down. He he comes in the morning. Now they stopped this, but they stopped this. But what he was doing at first, he'd come in the morning and he'd come at our table and he'd have breakfast with us, and then he'd stay there. We'd leave and go back to our apartment, and he'd stay there. And then when lunch come, he'd eat lunch, and anything they put in the front of him, he ate. And they did that. And then he'd go to supper, the same thing. He would never leave. But then Carmelas just stopped him from doing that. I think at an age of mine, you got to watch your weight, because your weight, if you get too much overweight, you're going to suffer from it. I'm suffering now for it because I'm actually too heavy. You know, like I can't walk as good as I'd like to. You know.
Great. Thank you. That concludes this portion. I'm going to change my lens back.
Jokes.
Top 5.
This woman goes to her doctor, and he says to her doctor, "Doctor, my husband doesn't like sex anymore. Can you do anything?" So the doctor says, "Yeah." He says, "Take that Viagra and just take a little of it, and when you're having supper sometime, take the Viagra and put it in this coffee and stir it around when he's not looking, and then take it, and have him take it. Have him take the Viagra." So she says, "Okay." So she gets the Viagra, and they're having supper one night, and she puts the Viagra in his coffee and she stirs it around. About 10 minutes later, he rips off his clothes and he rips off her clothes, and they have passionate sex right on the table. So she goes back to her doctor and tells him about it. The doctor says, wasn't that good?" "Oh, the woman said the sex was very good, but we can't go into the Red Lobster anymore." Woman is married to this man for 50 years, and he dies. So she says to herself, she says, "I am not going to live without my husband. I'm going to kill myself." So she goes and gets a gun, and she's about to shoot herself. And she says, "Ooh, I better find out where my heart is." So she calls up her doctor, and she says, "Doctor, where's my heart?" And he says, "Right below your left breast." And she hangs up the phone and shoots herself. She gets admitted to the hospital with gunshot wounds to the left knee. The kid goes to school, and the teacher says to him, "Johnny, why were you out of school yesterday?" Johnny thinks for a minute, and he tells her, he says, "My mother had a wagon." The teacher says, "What do you mean mother had a wagon?" I'll speak to your mother." So she calls her mother, she comes back to Johnny, she says, "Johnny, your mother didn't have a wagon. She had a miscarriage." He said, "Oh, I knew it was something with wheels." This kid is in that math class, and the teacher said to him, "I'm going to test your math." He said, "Johnny, if you had $1 and your father gave you another $1, how many dollars would you have?" The kid thinks for a minute, and he says, $1. The teacher said, "No, you can't add." He said, "You don't know your math." The kid says, "Baloney too. You don't know my father." This preacher goes to heaven, and he goes and he meets mother.
Mary.
Can't think word anymore.
Mother Mary.
Mother Mary, and she says, "You know, I have pictures of statues in my room of you in the church and everything for you, but you're always frowning. Why?" And she says, "Well, I was looking forward to a girl." Is riding along in their car, and they're having an argument, the couple, man and woman. So the woman driving the car, she's driving on the side road, and she sees this bunch of animals in a thing there, the pigs and everything. And she says to her husband, she says, "Is that your relatives?" He says, "Yeah, it is. In-laws."